Well, hello, I'm Mike Festiva. Welcome back. In this video, we're going to be covering a really cool addition you can add to any home-built sawmill or Wood-Mizer or anything like that, and that's electronic Setworks. It transforms your sawmill into a full CNC height adjustment. The really cool thing is, once you have a cant, it will accommodate kerf all the way through your whole board cut list. Whether you have all the same board you're cutting through that thing, the bottom board will always come out exactly what you're looking for. You can also program it so you can have varying cut lists, like 1.5 inch boards times 3, 1 inch boards times 4, 3/4 inch board times 2, and it'll go all the way down. It's got a bunch of cool features. Will raise above your cut height, so you can return the mill. You'll never bump your blade on the wood at all. So let's jump into it, and I'll try to explain this pretty unique machine. Got this blade somewhere around here. I'd be happy with the cant height. We'll put it here for now. Now we need to program it to cut 1.5 inch boards. So we're going to hit 1 times, oh, it says we can get 6 out of it right up there, so 6. Now we're going to hit enter, see where it goes. Alright, got the line going through here, so we're going to get 6 2x4s and 6 2x6s out of this 12 footers. That's where it wants us to start our top cut. We're going to fire up the mill and start cutting. So keep in mind, you're fair warned, this video is pretty long. It covers a lot of stuff about sawmills, especially Setworks, so if that's not your cup of tea, it might not be the best video for you. So here's some of that lumber we just cut. Pretty consistent, looks pretty nice. So here's what comes with the kit. You get a manual, you get some screws, mounting stuff, mounting bracket, you get some wiring. This is what measures your height of your mill. It's pretty cool. It's got this really nice seal through here. It's very stout. And here's your box. This has these external buttons. You can rewire new buttons in if you want, so it cuts down on how much you're touching the face buttons here. And if I take this open, it's got some contacts here to hook up right to this sensor. It's got these rubber grommeted input and output for your DC voltage. Got an on-off switch down here. Take off the screws. I'll show you inside. Really nice terminals explaining what everything is on the terminals. The manual also has a wiring diagram. It's got some relay banks in here, and if you're running this thing with an AC, not gas, I'm running on a gas mill, you can hook up to a load meter in here and it'll tell you what your cutting load is if you're pushing on the mill. We're not going to be using that function on here. I think in Europe a lot of mills are running off of AC power, and so that's a pretty nice feature for those. But I couldn't find a bunch of information on their site, so I emailed them. The people are really good about getting back to you super quick. And it turns out, keep in mind, I started on this video months and months ago, and at the time Micron didn't have as much information in English on their site defining the different models and which ones would work in fraction. They are a European company, so most of their Setworks are in metric. And metric's a fine system, but in the States here, it's nice to have imperial and fractions. So the SW-350 PRO and the SW-250 are the only models that can actually go between metric and fractions. So those are one of the models you're going to want to get. So here we're using the ArcDroid CNC plasma cutter to cut out the backing plate so I can actually mount this to my sawmill easily. If you're interested in one of these CNC plasma cutters or how I built the downdraft table, I'll put a link below in the description to a video I made a while back. I cover a lot of stuff about the plasma cutter and dry air and table and all that stuff, so check that video out. Here we go. We're going to bolt that plate I built to the back of the Setworks and take it up to the sawmill and get ready to mount it. So there's that custom bracket I built. Should sit something like that. That'll be really nice. I just got to drill some holes in the back and mount this. Installation was pretty straightforward. The manual covered it pretty well. I'm just hooking up the sensor right here. This measures how high the mill comes up and down and gives feedback to the computer about where the mill is set to. Really simple to wire this thing up, wasn't much to it. Now this kit is really easy to set up on almost any mill, especially with this sensor here, because it's a cable operated sensor. Some of the other ones they sell basically has a shaft on the back, and if you run it through a gearbox, you can hook it to the gearbox and put enough information in the computer here that will convert the rotations to millimeters or inches your mill will raise up and down. I got this one because it has this really nice kind of spring-loaded stainless steel cable here. So you want to keep this thing in line the best you can, vertical connection, whatever you're hooking this thing to. So right down here is a little hard to see. There is a bolt down there for adjusting my slides on my mill. I'm just going to hook it onto that because I'm a long ways from power and it's not easy to weld up here unless I bring a generator. So just trying to drill and tap the most I can, and that bolt's already existing there. So this is a mess of wiring in here. This was double pulse width controls in here. This is my original control box. The pulse width controller behind it is designed for the travel, and this one is for the up and down. Well, the knob out here, being exposed to weather, has been an issue, and it's basically only been running on full speed anyways, so I need to switch that out. Got another one, and no reason to put it in this box anymore because all my travel speed is going to be controlled with this one, and so I think I'm going to try to find room in here to fit this, hopefully. And it's got some banks of relays. I need to look through the manual, understand how it works. One setup, I think one bank set up to raise and lower at full speed, and then once it's finding the location, it clicks over to a slow speed, which will be going through the pulse width controller, so it can travel up or down and then fine tune until it's at the location and stop. Make more sense when I get wired up. I need to look through the manual, figure out how these relays are set up, and I'll explain it a little bit better once I get it finished. So unfortunately, these little relay banks that come on here, I mean, it kind of makes sense, but this machine is probably mainly used for AC applications, and these are only 8 amps at 250 volts. They're basically just there to control, with 12 volts from the unit here, to control a AC motor starter for like big electric mills to raise and lower. They can't handle the amperage I'm going to be drawing through here. I'm going through a pulse width controller. My thought was on the slow speed setting, I'd use this and I'd let the bank relays run the high speed. It's not going to work. It's just going to burn these things out. So either I replace these with a different set of relays that are sturdier, that can handle it, or I just run it on a mid speed with my pulse width controller. Well, the way I got it running right now, I got my power wires coming in, fused of course, coming into these little junctions they offered with the unit. So power in, splits power out. One goes to this power and ground of the relay module. Another set of wires comes down here with my pulse width controller. These terminals are going to be for the DC electric motor. This has the heavy duty relays in it to handle the switching for the DC load. So here's the switch I cut off the pulse width controller. Center does nothing. This would tell the motor to go up. This would tell it to go down. Cut the wires off. The black wire in the center is the common, and this was for the one relay, and then this was for the other relay, so that's direction. I found that I ran my black common wire out of the pulse width controller up to this relay bank, and I have it split here, so that one black wire, common, comes up to 3 and 2. Yellow wire goes to 1, red wire goes to 4. So again, common comes and splits to 2 and 3. Direction is 1 and 4. And that, I just double checked the voltmeter, and that cycles the bigger relay bank here for the motor for up and down, reversing the polarity. So I did some milling with this earlier, still trying to figure it out. Started cutting this log into a cant. Here's the power switch. I still don't quite understand all the features on here just because the manual I got sent is an older version and this thing has been revised. So keep in mind, when I ordered this months ago, it was actually a new model that they didn't have a full manual written for it yet when I purchased it. And so I got an older manual with it that didn't cover all the new features and buttons. Since then, they sent me an email with a full working manual. So it helped a lot, but that was after the fact of getting it set up on my mill. Like quick reference, like that's 1/2 inch, I program it, that's 3/4, that's 1 1/2, and that's 3 1/2. You could set all those on there however you want. You know, if I want to make the thing mill go up to 16, I just push 16. So there's 16 inches. Mill's cut up to that. So here's a stack of boards. We should get 8 2x6s out of this. I think I just need to tell it to go to 12. So now it claims it's at 12, and now we're going to tell it 5, 1, 2 times 2. That's what it says we gotta cut it at. Here we go. So this was just kind of trial and error, figuring out how to work with the Setworks. Next part we're going to jump over to is actually setting up your Setworks if you get one, and some of the options and features it has. So when you first get your Micron Pro set up on your sawmill, you're going to want to do a few things. Set your maximum height and maximum drop of your mill, basically how low your mill will come down to the bed, and the maximum height. This also calibrates it so the sensor knows how to read properly. So you're going to hit this gear symbol up here, hold it down. It's going to ask for a code, and it's in your manual. It's 3068. Hit enter. Now as you got your F, this is where you can put in some different calculations in here. We are going to put in 92. This sets your low distance. Hit enter. Now here's where we're going to set up our low distance. So I got this little piece of wood. This represents 1.5 inches. I'm going to slide it between the bunk and the blade. I got it set right where I want it. Put that information in the computer. That's 1.5 inches. Next, we're going to bring the mill all the way up and measure between the bunk and the blade to the maximum height and add that in the computer. 1.5 is about all my mill will cut off the bed. So we're going to push 1 over 1 down 2. I'm going to hit enter. Now it goes to F98. That's the high point. So I got that at 22 inches, so we're going to put that in the computer now. 2, enter. Alright. So these are all presets, including the robot button can also function as 5 different functions, but these presets are nice. You know, you can set it for 1.5 inches, 3.5, whatever you want, but I actually have this one at 3/4 of an inch and this one at 3/4 of an inch. Say I want to change that down to 1/2 inch, you hold this button down. It'll beep a little bit. We're going to go over, going to hit 1, go down, 2. Now we're going to hold the set button. Now it's good. Now we hit enter or down. There it goes. Cut a 1/2 inch board. You want to cut a 3/4 inch board. That's already preset to that. Hit 3/4 inch. So on 1.5 inch. I also believe there's a way you can preset these, or cut list. If you're cutting common cants, you can preset a whole cut list into each one of these buttons as well. For initial setup, before we get cutting too much, I want to calculate the kerf. I made a nice little cut in this wood here. Looks like almost 1/8 inch kerf. So we're going to add that into the computer next. I'll show you how to do that. So to calculate kerf in here, which is important to make sure all your boards come out right, you're going to hit first the stop button, make sure you can clear anything on the program. You're going to push this button up here, and it's at 0.085. We're going to hit 1.15, so it's just under 1/8 inch, and we're going to hit enter. There we go. So one other thing to mention, this is your go-to button. If I want it to go to 10 inches, I'll just put 10 in here. There you go, sawmill's at 10 inches. But you can also use the manual buttons down here. If I want to lower the mill, give you a readout what it's at. You can fine tune, I want to go to 8 inches, hit that. One other interesting thing to mention is if you didn't actually have a power lift and lower on your mill, but you want to add one later, you could actually just run this and use it to raise and lower with a hand winch until you get that dot on there, and it's pretty accurate at that point. And you could always add a powered lift later to your mill. So we got 2 boards on here. They're probably about, I don't know, over 12 inches high. They're 1.5 inches thick. I'm going to cut 2 2x6s, which is only 5.5 inches per board height. We get 4 out of these 2 on here right now. So we're going to jump over the computer. I'll show you how to set that up really quickly. All right, we got 2 boards on the mill. We're actually going to cut them at 5.5 inches tall. In the US, that's considered a 2x6 in height. It's easy just to cut 2 store-bought lumber heights. So we're going to say that the mill boards are 13 inches right now. It's the go-to button. We're going to say that's the cant cut height. This is what this is. It beeps. Now we want to input 2 cuts at 5.5 inches. It will automatically calculate kerf. So we're going to hit 5, 1, down 2, times 2, enter. So now it says it has to go to 11.1/8. It's at 13 inches right now. We're going to hit the enter button and the mill will drop right to the point we need the first cut. Here we go. Simple as that. Now we're going to fire up the mill, make the first cut. I'll get a shot of that, and then when we return the mill all the way back, we'll hit enter again and we'll drop to our next cut height. So here we got our first cut of those 2 boards. So the cool thing is we're done with the cut. You can just hit either up or bump up, doesn't matter. So we're just going to bump it up here. So now the blade will clear the wood. We're going to turn the mill home. And even if you bump it up or change the height, no matter what you do, the mill knows where it needs to come back down to. So once you got it, remember we bumped the blade up over the last piece of wood. We're just going to hit enter, which is this button or this button. So after emailing back and forth with the company numerous different times, asking about different models and options and different things, they've been super good about getting back to me. A fella named Roman has been very helpful, always returned my emails. I was telling them about making this video, and I asked if there's any possibility they could get a discount code for my subscribers, and they came back and said sure. So there should be Mike Festiva, all one word, capitals. It'll save you a little bit when you go to buy a Setworks. So before you go over there, double check the promo codes down below in the description and link to their site. And I never asked for any compensation for links to that, any type of affiliate link or anything. I just wanted to make sure to get some subscribers some discounts if I could. So enjoy that discount. So this bump up button here, this blue one, has 2 functions. One is it sets your auto limit. You have a virtual limit when we put it in at 22 or 21 3/4. I can't remember what I set the upper height to. But if you run this up button, you will never go past that limit. These ones you can override it, but this one will stop at that soft limit. And the other feature I'll go into, it's actually got a bunch of different ones you can preset to this up button. So like I said, there's different auto sets you can set for this bump up. One is 0 for the settings when you go into it with the F30 settings. So this thing has a bunch of settings. It's kind of hard to go into everything with it. This video would probably be over an hour long. So I'm going to jump through this bump up button. There's like 5 different settings you can set on it. And it's very simple to set up. You can really dial it into your liking, the way you run a mill. If you have a automatic like board catcher that when your mill returns back, it grabs the board and mechanically brings it back to you. You can have a setting for that. If you have someone grabbing the lumber and you just want to bump up over the top of each board that you cut and they remove the next board, you can set it up. The way I'm configuring mine is that I can actually run it over the top of the cant by 1/2 inch every time I go to bump up the button. So that's how I'm using my bump up button. And then the 4th one, which I'm going to use, will bump it up over the height of the cant on your first cut and then some. So that way you can cut from the top down on your cants, but you can always bump it up and it'll automatically go above the cant and come back. So you can leave the whole stack of boards in a one whole stack and remove them at the end. I haven't been milling that way usually. I've always just cut, removed each board, came back with the mill, brought my unit down. Because I didn't have the Setworks, I always have to kind of calculate my next cut and kerf all the way down. This way it calculates kerf and cut height from the bottom up. So you can use a feature like that, which you're going to program in a moment. So when you input it what your cant height is and you input what you want to cut your boards, every time you get to the end of it, you hit the bump up and it will raise it over the cant height, so you can travel back, leave all the boards in the stack, and then keep cutting all the way down. That's going to be a nice feature, so we're going to program that next. So we're going to go into settings here, and we're going to set this so it bumps up over the cant height that we set and gives it extra clearance. So we're going to hit this, and we're going to hit, it's going to be 30, enter. We want 4. on 4. Okay, let's test that out. So probably the simplest way to explain this blue bump up button is this. Say we got a 16-inch cant. We got a log on here, but ignore that right now. We're going to tell it with these arrows come together with the dot that that's the top of our cant. That's set it on a simple preset of 1.5 inches. We're going to hit enter. Okay, imagine we came down 1.5 inches, we made our cut. We're at the end of the cant. We're going to leave the stack of wood on the cant. We're going to raise the mill up above it every time by 1/2 inch. We hit the bump up button, it'll bring it up to 2 inches. So 1.5 inches for the wood and then 1/2 inch over it. Here we go. So we're up higher than the cant. Say we bring the mill back. We're getting ready to drop to our second board down. It's going to drop about 3.5 inches down. So we're going to hit the enter button. Now we're ready to make our cut. Here we go again. Say we made the end of our cut. We want to hit the bump up button. It's going to come up over the cant by 1/2 inch so we can bring the mill back. Now we can return the mill. Getting ready to do our next cut. We hit the enter button. It'll drop down to the next board down lower on the list. Hope that makes sense. So this little excavator, I've been doing a lot of work to it this spring and early summer. Actually, I had a hard time after rebuilding the cylinders trying to find hydraulic filters for the tank. That's one of the downsides of owning a gray market machine, is just not being able to find simple things like that very easily. Actually got a video coming out pretty soon on the whole process of that and where I sourced my parts for it. Right now we're going to be loading up a 12-foot long Douglas fir onto the mill. We're going to be showing the Setworks and how I broke down this log into a cant and how I did a cut list and everything. All that previous stuff we're talking about, inputting stuff with the F buttons, that is just initially you set it up like that to get the mill ready to go. Once you have all that set in there, you don't have to input it every time. You just program the Setworks how you want to mill with it, and it remembers all those settings. Let's get milling. Right, so we got a, I don't know, 12-foot, probably 14-inch or so Douglas fir log. We're going to cut into a cant first. We're going to get some time lapse of that. We're going to cut this into a bunch of lumber and I'll show you the results. So let's get milling. So here I'm just making the top few cuts, just lowering the mill down 3/4 inch every time. I can use this for some flooring later on or some 1x4s. Lots of little stuff. I try to maximize the yield of each log, and having this little Setworks is pretty cool because you can just start pushing 3/4 inch down. It keeps lowering down till you get to the point you want to cant. You can roll it like we're working on here. I'm going to start cutting the other section of this log down 3/4 inch at a time. We'll come back later in the video and I'll show you the yield we get out of these little top boards. Some people just cut right off on the cant and just throw away or turn it into firewood. We like to get a little extra lumber that way. Another thing to keep in mind, if you're working a log down really slowly like this, you got to remove the bark, because if there's any dirt or grit that's left in that bark, you're going to throw away some blades making those extra cuts through it. So like you see, we scrape most of the bark off the logs before I start milling it. So the way this cant worked out, I cannot quite get 11 inches as to here. There's too much waning to get two 2x6s, a bunch of them up here and all the way through this. So what I'm going to set it up for is 5.5 up plus 3.5, so a 2x6, 2x4. Then we're going to cut 3/4 inch board and another 3/4 inch board here. So what I'm going to do is bring the mill back. I put that program in so it accommodated Kerf all the way up. So then I'm going to come back and cut these down, and then I'm going to probably rotate it and then recalculate it that way after I make a few more cuts. So this sawmill Setworks is pretty good for any home hobbyist miller, or if you actually have a side job or a full-time job milling wood. It's crazy the amount of accuracy this thing has and the amount of time it will save you and the amount of maximum yield you'll get out of a log. It's definitely well worth looking into. And just because I'm running this on a home-built mill doesn't mean that you can't just put this on any store-bought mill. They make a bunch of kits that will actually bolt and plug and play to like the Wood-Mizer LT40 and some Norwood saws, and they're expanding their line for more plug and play is what they're trying to work towards. So if you have a sawmill,
any type of sawmill with the power lift, you can set one of these things up and have a super accurate Setworks on almost any mill out there.
There's our 3.5 cut, 3.5 inches, one board of that, and the last board that's going to be left there is our 5.5 inch cut. So the cool thing about that bump up, how way I got it programmed, is it remembers where your cant height is and it'll just jump up it over that cant height by 1/2 inch. The reason why the blade's so much higher than these cuts is because we pulled 2 3/4 inch boards off the top of it already. But a bump up always works the same, so you can travel and clear everything. Now we're gonna flip this over and start cutting 2x4s and 2x6s all the way through. Got this blade somewhere around here. I'd be happy with the cant height. We'll put it here for now. Now we need to program it to cut 1.5 inch boards. So we're gonna hit 1 times, oh, it says we can get 6 out of it right up there. So 6, enter. So there we go. Now we're gonna hit enter, see where it goes. Got the line going through here, so we're gonna get 6 2x4s and 6 2x6s out of this 12 footers. That's where it wants us to start our top cut. So we're gonna fire up the mill and start cutting.
So cutting a cant down in one big stack like this and leaving the boards on top is kind of a newer concept for me. I knew it existed, but originally raising and lowering my mill and trying to accommodate kerf and the right board height was too hard for me to do originally without this Setworks. So this is kind of a new way of cutting. It saves our back, saves us a lot of time, and maximizes yield when you're out there working with the mill. So I'm pretty happy about this new concept of cutting from the top down and leaving the boards in a stack. So we ended up getting, this row is 2x4s, 12 footers, and 2x6, 12 footers out of it. Got some waning on these top boards, but we can make do with that. When we're ripping down the cant, we also cut a bunch of this 3/4 inch stuff, and these are pretty wide, as you can see. So I'm gonna go through and clean off the waning on this and stack all these boards up and put them away. So that log, there's 6 2x6s, 6 2x4s that came off of it. This is some other stuff I cut the other day. Got a nice stack of wood. And this was just those outskirts when I was cutting 3/4 inch off, getting down to the cant. I kind of try to maximize the yield of what I can get off of a tree. So I'll just kind of work my way down 3/4 inch increments. And some of these boards like this, these are 12 feet long, have some waning, but there's actually probably up to 6 foot board right here without waning. Probably 7 foot on this without much. So we got some lower grade stuff down here, but we can still use for building projects. And we got 7 pretty good 1x4s right here. Be able to use that for placing on rafters and screw down metal roofing for outbuilding, stuff like that. So I'm at my friend's place. Last summer we bought this mill. It's taken a lot of work. Dave put a lot of time and effort into fixing it up, but we got it for a pretty good price. Semi-industrial mill, and he's got a Setworks on here. He was the one that told me about it, and he's got some cedar cants cut here. He's gonna go through and cut a bunch of interior cedar siding, so we're gonna get to that next. Dave's got this mill set up hydraulically. Well, it was set up hydraulically, but he controls it through these electric solenoid valves up here to control all this. Mine works off of that quad boat winch. All right, Dave.
Right?
Yep.
Then we just idle up.
So for Dave to get this 3/8 program in here, he just hit divide by 3/8 and gave him a list. I think it was like 38 boards he could get out of this cut list here. So 38 per cant, I should say. So we get actually a lot of boards cut out of this. So he's just starting to rip some stuff down. Dave actually told me about this Setworks company months ago. He actually ordered his about 6 months before I ordered mine. And after seeing it set up on his mill, I was pretty sold on how useful they are, and the fact that the Setworks does a lot of the calculations for Kerf and tells you exactly what kind of boards you're going to get out of it. You can make cut lists and everything comes out spot on accurate. So I'm sold on it. I think for any type of production or home production stuff, if you're a hobbyist but want to like get maximum yield out of it and save some time, I think it's well worth it. If you have a small side sawmill business running or a full production, I think this could be adapted to almost any machine. Like, this is a hydraulic mill and it's adapted with those electric solenoids over the hydraulic valves. I'm running it with the electric style boat winch. It's just one of those things that are worth putting on almost any mill if you see yourself cutting a lot of lumber. Right here it shows we can get 23 more 3/8 boards per cant. It's just nice to get an idea of what you're cutting. And I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you know, give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment down below if you'd like. And YouTube is not letting most of my subscribers know that I have new videos out for some reason. So if you don't have the bell icon clicked on, there's a great chance you're not going to have an idea I have any new videos out. So make sure to click that bell if you want to see more videos from me. All right, hope you enjoyed the video. I hope I did it justice. There's not too much content on the Setworks on the internet, and it's just a nice product at a very affordable price compared to what other Setworks are going for proprietary mills like Wood-Mizer and Norwood and different things like that. They're at least double the price. It's nice to have something like this on a mill. I'm looking at it down the road as maybe getting a bigger portable mill, something on a trailer, and I'll probably make it so I can quick disconnect the Setworks from my home mill and take it on the trailer. So I hope you enjoyed it. Here's some of that cedar boards we cut. Pretty flat. So we just cut 74 after it's doing some high grade. There's some still high grading to be done on some of these, but 74. These are going to be interior boards, probably shiplap or something planed. And the computer said we can get another 15 cuts down before we get to the bottom of the stack. So 15 times 4 there, so another 60 out of this stack. Little computer, that Setworks really is pretty nice for production style like this and getting maximum out of it. All right, hope you enjoyed the video, and if you're interested in checking out the Setworks, there'll be links below to the Micron website. See if it's right for you and your mill. All right, until next time, bye.